Hello, welcome to Catholic Life, ordinary people with extraordinary faith. I'm Deacon Jody Moscona. Thank you for joining us today. Today we're talking to one of those people that has extraordinary faith, Miss Tammy Vidrine. I guess it's Mrs. Tammy Vidrine. And thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Okay, so when I got word about this interview as a possibility, I thought you were a new Director of Campus Ministry at FranU, and I found out you're an oldie but goodie.
Yeah. I've been there going on my 7th year this year, and it's been a blessing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And we had a little time to chat about that, and get some of the background and all this. First, let's talk about you. You're not from here. You're from East St. John, and that's the Archdiocese of New Orleans. What brought you to Baton Rouge? I know the answer, but I have to ask.
Well, I met my husband, and so that's what brought me to Santa Ma. I'm a parishioner of Holy Rosary Parish, and we actually married in that church. And Father Tom Ranzino was the priest that celebrated our wedding. So I've been around the Diocese of Baton Rouge for a while now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so when I was going through your bio, you've held a lot of different positions, but one that really kind of intrigued me was you actually work for the diocese in the Office of Evangelization and Catechesis.
Yes, I was the certification coordinator there, and I worked there for 2 years. But prior to that, I worked at Holy Rosary as the youth ministry coordinator. So while there, I developed programs for youth ministry at 3 levels. So we adopted Life Teen as our program for high school. So I was at the beginning of that, of helping to implement that. I was on a church council. We then started a middle school. Then we started an elementary school ministry, and we got the high school and middle school students involved in each level of ministry. So it was their giving back. And I did that for 13 years and then went back to school. I'm a 4-time cancer survivor. So I had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So I've had to put my doctorate or my master's on hold for a while. And so when I was cancer-free, I decided to go back to school and get my master's in religious education. So I received that from Loyola in New Orleans, went on campus, loved it, had that campus experience, and rushed my graduation because my daughter was graduating in 2013. So I have 3 adult children. All are very successful in their professions, and been married for 31 years to Greg Vidrine, and he works in Baton Rouge with a major oil company. We'll just leave it at that.
So one of the things that I'd like the folks to take from this is that you're just an ordinary person.
Yes.
You know, you have medical issues. You've had to interrupt your education. You have 3 kids. You got married. You know, all the things that most of the people that are watching have happened. And yet, because of the extraordinary faith that you have, you've spent most of your time dedicated to church, and I'm using church in the broad sense,
right.
Church-related activities, only because, as I sense it, God is a big part of your life.
Yes,
so,
has always been a big part of my life. I remember when I was first diagnosed with cancer, Father Tom Ranzino came to my mother-in-law's house, and I said to him, I really want to be involved in the church. And I had just had my firstborn child, and he was 6 months old. And Father Tom said something that really touched me. He said, Tammy, let's focus on you first. All that other stuff will come. And he was right. Faith has been a big part of my strength in getting through cancer. I taught at Nichols State in developmental English, which to me was a ministry in itself. And one of the Dr. David Boudreau, who was the dean of the school, talked to me and he said, you know, Tammy, I had had my 2nd child. You can always come back to teaching. I love teaching developmental English, love seeing the lights turn on for people. But he was right. So I took a 9-year break. And in that 9 years, my cancer did return, and I went through treatment. But I was getting involved in church ministry, reading in church. I was on a church council. So just because I was facing cancer, it didn't stop me from being involved in and giving back. And I really wanted my children to have a place to belong if something happened to me, because in my head, I was planning for the day that I wouldn't be here for my children. But by the grace of God, I'm able to see my first grandchild born during COVID. So
that's awesome.
God is great.
That is fantastic. A lot of us have those similar kind of experiences where we kind of eased into a more active participation in church-related activities. For example, I can remember playing the guitar, at Mass. It was music ministry. It kept me involved. It wasn't to the level of what I do now, but it was toe in the water kind of stuff, And I think that's what I sense from you. You were dealing with cancer. You had newborn kids, and yet you wanted to be on the parish council.
Right.
Why? Because you were serving.
Right. And I was invited. So, I said a prayer to God that if he wanted me to be his disciple, and those were the words that I used, if he wanted me to be his disciple, then to show me, how to do that. And I had gotten an invitation from Father Bob Stein to get my feet washed at Mass. And so that was very, to me, impactful as saying that prayer to be a disciple. And what did Jesus do? He washed the feet of his disciples. He became servant. So my first introduction was into the parish council. And then being part of the parish council, people saw my gifts and invited me to be part of to start a high school ministry through Life Teen.
It's funny that, not funny, totally God that you bring up getting your feet washed, because on a prior show, I actually interviewed Father Eddie Martin, and he said that when he was called to have his feet washed, he didn't think he was worthy.
Right.
And the priest kind of hung up on him and said, just be there, And it really invigorated him, in a sense, to strengthen his faith. What did the apostles ask Jesus? Strengthen our faith.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
that's what we all need. And it's those little ways that God pulls us in,
right,
that winds up being a trigger to increase our faith. And you certainly have that extraordinary faith. It's just evident from the way you talk.
And it doesn't mean that the journey has been easy, because I remember when the cancer came back the third time, because I had been through radiation, chemo. 2 years after chemo, the cancer came back. And so I was losing my options for treatments. But Dr. Militello said, you know what, Tammy, as long as you stay cancer-free, the more likely we'll have something new to treat your cancer. Well, it came back, and I just had my third child, and he was 2 months old, and I found a lump in my thigh, and my doctor suggested I go to the oncologist to get it checked out. We did surgery. It was second stage cancer. And so, I remember raising my fist to the heavens and saying, God, why didn't I pray to you? I want to be the mother to put the Band-Aids on. Didn't I ask you for this? And why did you abandon me? And I remember walking outside in our yard. We have a beautiful homestead with a lot of foliage and trees, and I feel close to God when I go outside. And God said, I didn't abandon you. You abandoned me. And I was like, okay. Because even though we're suffering and going through difficult times and we don't understand, God calls us, God's faithful to us, and God calls us to also be faithful. So he never, never abandons us.
That's awesome. What the people that are watching, I'm sure many of them have had cancer, and many of them have struggled with that same thing,
Yeah.
Why,
Yeah.
And at some level, we have to not have fear, but have faith.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
it's hard sometimes, because when things hit you hard, makes you afraid. We just have to fight that fear with faith.
Right. And I'm in the internship for spiritual direction with the Archdiocese. And that's one of the things that you learn through that internship, is to recognize when the Spirit not of God is trying to draw you away. So don't let fear rule you, but, push through it. Even when you don't feel like praying, still say a short prayer, or even if you just think about Jesus and his name, that helps you to get through the treatments. I used to say, Sacred Heart of Jesus, have mercy on me. Immaculate Heart of Mary, pray for me. That was always my prayer, going through radiation, going through chemo. Because when you get your first chemo and they inject you and you have a port in, you don't know what to expect. And there's a great fear, but we have to push that aside and rely upon our faith.
Absolutely. One of the things that you evidence through your perseverance is your dedication to not only to God, but what God has called you to. Everything I hear, you keep coming back to being mom, being part of church, working, doing what God calls you. And oftentimes we have gifts and we deploy our gifts and we think we're doing what God wants. And then he'll say, I want you to use them in a different way. And it's kind of like taking a left turn,
Right.
And you've done so many things.
Yeah.
You've got a great background, but you've been called to change direction several times. Right.
I mean, I started in parish ministry, really, and it's been a blessing because I've taught a CCD or PSR, whatever we're calling it today, the youth minister. But when I left parish ministry, I came to the diocese and used my gifts in the diocese. But I missed the ministry side of things. Not that working with Catholic school teachers or parish DREs wasn't ministry, it was. And I met a lot of great people out there in what I call the field, the hospital field of God's church. And but it was through those experiences that I had that the University of FranU was able to see my gifts. So I had heard they were looking for a director of campus ministry, and I said, I prayed about it. Because when I took the job with the diocese, I really didn't pray about it, I applied for it. But this time I prayed about it, and I asked God, if this is what you want me to do, if this is where you want me to be, then make the path smooth. And so I put my application in and got a call back, and there was 5 of us. And I said, well, I'm too old because I'm going to be 60 at the end of August. And I said, I'm too old for that position, and I don't know if they're going to, choose me or whatever. So I had a call to come on campus for the in-campus interviews. So I passed the phone interviews, and now it was time to come on campus. And when I did that, at the end of the day, the VP said to me, I think they really like you, so we'll let you know something in a few days. So I didn't think anything of it, but what I brought to them was my experience with parish ministry, with the diocese, with higher education, since I taught at Nicholls State and RPCC. I had those experiences. And so God provided.
We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we want to talk to you about FranU experience.
Okay. I look forward to it.
Stay with us. We'll be right back after a short break.
In Pope Francis' recent proclamation on St. Joseph named Patris Corde, which means with the Father's heart, he invites us to celebrate a year of St. Joseph. It is with deep joy that I announce our Diocesan Year of St. Joseph from May 1st this year, the Feast of St. Joseph the Worker, and concluding next year, March 19th, on the Feast of St. Joseph, the Spouse of Mary. Our unique timing allows us to also celebrate this year the 60th anniversary of the Diocese of Baton Rouge. Called by God to directly serve the person and mission of Jesus Christ, St. Joseph's unfailing devotion to the Holy Family and humble obedience to God's will is the beacon which guides our earthly pilgrimage as missionary disciples. As a diocese under the protection of St. Joseph since 1961, we too are called to diligently serve Jesus Christ, in whom we find our hope. In this light, I encourage each of you to actively participate in the various activities, events, and liturgies planned throughout this festive season as we follow the heart of St. Joseph, rejoicing in the blessings of our faith-filled community, and offer thanksgiving to God for 60 years of vitality as the Diocese of Baton Rouge. For more information, visit our website at diovr.org.
Welcome back to Catholic Life, ordinary people with extraordinary faith. I'm Deacon Jody Moscona. Thank you for staying through the break. And we're talking to Mrs. Tammy Vidrine here. She's the director of campus ministry at FranU, which that's easy for me to say FranU because now I'm used to it. But historically, it was Our Lady of the Lake College.
Correct. We when I first started there, it was Our Lady of the Lake College. So I'm going on my 7th year of being there. And before I came there, there was no director of campus ministry, and there really wasn't any ministry on campus. But Sister Martha Ann was the campus minister, and she saw, and the administration saw we had a need on the campus to further our Catholic identity. And so they went on this search for a director of campus ministry. So when I was chosen for the position, I laughed at God because God has a sense of humor. I said, okay, God, so you made the path smooth. Everything was smooth. But now, what do I do? And this is what he said to me in prayer. He said, Tammy, run it like a parish. We are 100% commuter campus. So if you think about a parish, it's a commuter campus. And so I had so much experience in parish ministry, praise God for those 13 years, that I knew how to start ministry on campus. So the first thing I did was start with prayers like the Rosary. I had a group of our first class DPT students said, can we start Divine Mercy on Mondays? So we started doing Divine Mercy Mondays, and now I'm live feeding them on our Facebook page. Rosary on today at 11:30 when I leave here, I'll go do a Rosary. We started this year doing the Liturgy of the Hours midday on Thursday. So, nice. Yeah, and then we usually encourage the students, because we don't have a huge chapel on campus. We have, right now we're starting construction, so our chapel seats comfortably maybe 25 people. And so we started having Mass on campus for the board, and like specialty Masses throughout the semesters for the students. But now that we don't have that big space, I used to haul everything upstairs. Now that we don't have that big space, we're going to have to limit, and because of COVID, we'll have to limit how many people can come to Mass. So next week, we have Mass with Father Matt Dunn. The 26th, Father Josh Johnson is going to come on campus and do Mass. So we started doing Mass on campus. I do Bible studies. And the Bible studies are interesting because I think people don't realize, like, maybe 45% of our student body, last time I checked, 45% are Catholic. So you have all these non-Catholics who have faith, and that's part of our mission statement. We try to form all people in all faith traditions. And so you have all these people that are searching to get involved in their faith. And so that's my pitch when we have orientations. I'm like, we engage you in your faith tradition, whatever that may be. We're a Catholic university. We do have Mass. I encourage you to come to Mass on campus because you have the gospel reading, you have the Old Testament readings, you have the Psalms, and usually Father gives a pretty good message. So I encourage them to get involved on our Catholic campus. One thing that I instituted when I got there, and I got there on a grant. It was a 3-year grant. So I had all this money, and working in parish ministry, you learn to be frugal, right? So I had all this money, and I'm like, how am I going to spend all this money? One of the things that the university desired was a pilgrimage to immerse our students in the story of St. Francis so that they can get the feel of who we are as Franciscans. So I started a program on campus every summer for Franciscan pilgrimage. Now it's different from a pilgrimage that maybe one of our pastors would take us because they might have 50 or 60 people. We only take 6 students and a faculty or staff member and myself. And we truly immerse them in the story of St. Francis. Nice. And in the evenings, we come together after a day of visiting the different sites that impacted Francis. And we discuss what we experienced. We read scripture, we share, we pray together. So when the students leave, they feel fulfilled. They feel like they've learned who St. Francis is and who they're called to be as Franciscan students. It's truly a life-changing experience. And we don't just take any student, we interview them. They have to put in an application. I interview every single student that applies because you can't know a student from the piece of paper.
Right.
And what I've discovered from that is that usually we have a theme that's adopted by the students. So we might have students discerning something. You know,
Right.
it could
Absolutely.
be, should I stay in this vocation that I'm chosen to be in, this profession? And so, or am I going to stay in this relationship? So they come on that pilgrimage searching, and they leave the pilgrimage more aware of who they are and who they're called to be as Franciscans.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
One of the things that some of our viewers may not know about what the diamond in the rough, the university really is. You know, it's the only Catholic college, now university, here in Baton Rouge, and it's developed more and more over time, more programs and
Yes.
more. And one of the great new programs is the whole theology
Yeah.
program that's there for students to go get an undergraduate degree in theology.
Right, and that's the blessing with this Catholic university, with our Catholic university being in Baton Rouge. Before, if people wanted a degree in theology, they would have to go to New Orleans to one of the universities there. But now we're offering a 4-year theology degree, but we're also offering certificates for catechists. We're starting a new initiative in partnership with the Archdiocese to do spiritual direction, to offer the theology part of the courses that are needed. And then the spiritual direction side is going to be done by the Archdiocese. So we would offer the theology requirements, and then the spiritual direction side would be through the Archdiocese on our campus. So that's something new that's part of the theology department. We're excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
That program with the Archdiocese is a very rigorous program, and it's an excellent program. And I also do spiritual direction on campus, so I'm currently in formation with the Archdiocese.
It's an internship, you told me.
It's an internship, yes. It's an internship, and it's the first year is you study all about spiritual direction, and the second year is more the practicum of it. So
that's awesome.
Just finished my first silent retreat of directing people there, and it was a blessing.
That is pretty good.
Yeah.
So what I would like people to know is that if you have a grandchild or a child that is in high school and discerning where to go to college, here's an opportunity to go to a 4-year college, commuter style. You don't have to have the expense of a dormitory and food plan and all that kind of stuff. You can stay at home. You can go there. And we had Dr. Holland on before talking about plans and future. And we were talking about the diaconate program that that y'all do through there now, which is for another day sometime.
Right.
But it really is an opportunity to have a Catholic education right here, and that's so vital because it's something we didn't have, or people didn't know we had.
Right. And I think a lot of people don't know that there are 24 Franciscan universities in the United States. We're the only one in the Deep South. So we're the only Franciscan university in the Deep South. And we all belong to an association of Franciscan colleges and universities. So it's beautiful that we have this opportunity to offer the charisms of the Franciscans to our region. And being a commuter campus, the beauty of that is that some students who may live in the Lafayette area can, commute back and forth, but some choose to live in this area. So we have partnerships with rental apartments, with apartments that we form. So we're student centered. It's all about the student, the experience. Our faculty are student-centered. You get individual attention, and we really, truly want to see our students be successful. And when we talk about, Dr. Holland has talked about this, about forming the whole student, you know, and that's the spiritual side. Every morning, every single one of our students gets what we call Encounter the Word, which is a reflection from me, but it's based on the gospel reading of the day. And it challenges them to think about living out their faith. So they'll get a summary, they'll get a witness, they'll get an action, you know, they're called to something.
That comes on their phone?
It comes on their phone, it comes through the emails. So I can't tell you how many students have said, I really enjoy reading that. We have students who have left who said, how can I continue to get this? I've had parents call and say, hey, I'm Baptist, you know, but my daughter forwards this to me, and it really speaks to me. So I always tell the students, we are all part of campus ministry. We are all Franciscan, and everything that we have to offer is for their faith formation and to live that out.
That is so awesome. So when somebody has a person in high school and they're interested, is it an online application and the usual stuff?
Yeah, I would advise them to come visit the campus, because we have Seth labs, and we really have some unique instruments that we use in our campus, meet the faculty, meet the staff. So I would advise to set up an appointment through the admissions office to visit the campus first. And then the application process, they would tell you how to go about doing that. We have some wonderful people in admissions. With COVID, we've done virtual meetings, you know, if people aren't comfortable with that. This week, we're doing orientations. We've added orientations because we have had an increase in enrollment since COVID.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's truly a personal experience. So I would invite them to come to campus, set that appointment up, and just come visit the campus to see. We're getting ready to tear down the Dr. Holland's building, not because she's going anywhere, but because we're starting construction on our St. Francis Hall. And so the fences went up yesterday, and we were excited to see progress.
That's awesome.
And since I've been there, they've been saying, you know, we're going to have a chapel that's going to be bigger. So I'm excited about where things are going to go in the future.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
So I would just say that the purpose of us having this is to show people that you don't have to be extraordinary to have extraordinary faith, and you evidence that. And I want to thank you so much for all that you do for the youngsters at school. Mm-hmm. And we can say that because we're up there, right?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, it's been a blessing.
And thank you for your dedication to continue to put forth that Franciscan charism, you know, to let us know what Francis was all about. And you evidenced that, and I appreciate you for being here. It's been wonderful.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed it. Thank you for inviting me.
And thank you for watching today. We hope that you take the information, and I hope it was valuable to you. And take a look at FranU. It's an awesome part of Baton Rouge. Till next time, everybody, God bless.